Yo, what's going on people, and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be doing another watch my process. I'm going to take you through my step-by-step process of how I make the sort of like R&B trap soul vibes. And if you haven't already, get my sample pack that's on the screen. This gets you straight into it. So when I first start a sample, I just start with a piano just to build the chords so I can just get an understanding of how, and then I would just pick the right sound that I want and go and build behind that. So we've got a grand piano from Omnisphere, and we're going to just do it in a C minor scale. So 87 BPM, I'm just going to start with like a C minor 7th, just something basic, and then build around there. So the spacings here for a minor would just be 2, 3, and 2. That's how I know. So that sounds good. So I'm going to just copy this chord and go up by 5. It sounds like that, and then I'm going to invert, but I'm going to just pretty much keep it with a D sharp just because to lower the brightness a little bit. So I'm going to cut a little bit here, just change a little bits. Cool, that sounds much better. Like the brightness and the changing of how the chords transition sounds nice. And then I'm going to just get the same C sharp minor, but I'm going to invert it, so this is the lower bass note, so it sounds like this. So it just has like a nice range to it and just changes up a little bit, doesn't sound too repetitive. Then I'm going to just copy this over and drop it to A sharp like that, but I think I want to raise this to an F, and then I'll raise this to a D. It sounds better now, it just sounds more perfect and just fits in the chords nice. But what I want to change actually with this whole thing, I want to stretch this out because I want to make it like a nice slow vibe. It's a little bit too far. So see, it looks better like this, and then I'm going to just strum it so it's like this, then randomize the velocity so it sounds like this. So when I'm building like an R&B sample, the first thing I like to do is either get a piano or electric piano just to fit in with that nice vibe. So we'll just go to the whirly and just find a bank with something that sounds good. We've got this Pointers Road that sounds like this. And what I tend to do is just put a cassette on it and then just a little bit of reverb just to make it a little bit airiness. See, my thought process there is just to make it like nice and saturated with the cassette and just to make it very like bright and ambient. So with this, I want to layer this with another piano, so I'm going to just use an Omnisphere piano, use the rich ballad, I'll turn the reverb down a little bit. With the mix of the piano, put just the reels on it, turn down the flutter a bit, I just don't want it to be too crazy. And then I will just put a tiny depth on the room reverb so it's not as wide, and then I'll just bring the mix down just so it's subtle. I'm going to put like a heavy delay on this. I could probably make this a little bit more lo-fi, the piano. I'm going to just use this low-high just so it's a little bit more like washed out. And what I want to do with the piano, I have like a trick, so I'm going to route on a separate channel. I'm going to use Portal for the separate channel of the electric piano. What I want to do is EQ out the low end so it's not like pitching the low end, so it's not clashing. And what I like to do next is put like a bass on it, so I use modular. I feel like when you put a bass on it, you can have more of like a direction of where to build around. And I just want to EQ out the low end, the high end, should I say, just to make it very filtered. I'm going to up this so it's higher. And add like a shaper box so it's like rising with the filter. And what I like to do is all my samples, so I'll just put reverb. I'm going to put a little bit of flanger on just to give it like a filtered weird sound. And I may just like pretty much layer this with another perk loop just to give it like extra texture. Then for give it like cool texture, I'll find like a bell from Mellotron. So this doesn't really need processing that much. I just put this sketch cassette on it just to give it nice saturation like sound. So in my samples I like to use like a pad. And add this spring reverb because it gives a nice like harshness like reverb to it. It's really cool. So I've used this sound sifter, and as I brought it down, I don't like one of the chords, so I'm going to change the second chord. As you can see here, I've just changed the chord a little bit. I've dropped it down because I felt like the bass and how the like tempo and tone of it just didn't work fine. So I'm going to just shift it down again just to listen to it. So it just sounds so much better like that. So I'm going to just copy and paste it to everything else. So I've got this vocal from Splice, and I just make it very like lo-fi. And what I like to do is just make it washed out with this like Valhalla plate. So I've consolidated the vocal, and I'm just going to like chop bits up. So I've got this bits here, and I'm just going to put a heavy delay on it. So I use this delay that I've made before, just a wide delay, and it just sort of just makes it pan out. But I want to put like a low filter on it to make it sound like washed out. And then what I'm going to do again is I'm going to consolidate it again for a reverse version that I'm going to show you how I like manipulate and change. I've got like a reverse version, which I'll say I want this bit here as like a riser. And what I'll do, I'll drag it like this. So I'll add it in its another channel rack, chorus on it, and I will put another lo-fi just so it's just a little bit filtered out, maybe not as much. And then I'll put another delay on it just to give it that like sustain, and then I'll just automate it so it just rises up in volume. It's not crazy. For the second half of the sample, I'm going to add this like studio strings. And I want to add like a higher, maybe a higher. Pan one to the left, as you can see down here, and one to the right. And what I might do, I'm going to add like a shaper box on it, so it like sidechain and pulses in, maybe a half step. So again, let's look for a nice pad. I'm gonna get another like key, like weird sound, but this time I'm gonna reverse it. It's gonna be like a pad sound. So this is now reversed. We'll put this in another rack, and I'm gonna add a chorus to it. Then I want to add another loud delay on top of this. So I've got the sample, and I've just brought it down by 3 semitones. So I use this preset that I always use for my R&B mixes. So I'll show you what it is. It's a flanger. It's just a classic flanger, and I keep it quite like 50% mix. It gives it a nice like tone, R&B tone. Then I use this like stereo imager where I just band every bit of, so up to 200, 200 to 1K, 1K to 6K. And I just sort of like, you can make that separate band like nice width, just brings out like the brightness in the whole sample. And then this is how the sample sounds all together. Yeah, that is the whole sample all together. It just come out perfect. It's very like spatial, and it's so easy to just slap some drums on that, and it just gives a nice vibe. Hopefully I just brought some ideas of how I work. So yeah, that's pretty much my whole process. If you want to see more, then I will definitely do another video like this with different type of samples. So if you like this video, you know what to do. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, people.